light down here. These pants don't even I'm gonna tell you, I had on some other pants and I went in there to change because they didn't match, as if anybody could see my pants, right? I tell you, uh, it's psychological. It's like if you think you look a mess, then other people will think you look a mess. You know, whether they can see it or not.
Right.
I could feel it. I could feel it. I could feel it. So tell me, how was Sevyn?
Good.
How did
Um,
your visit go? Did you get to see her?
no, anyway, no, but I went to the parking lot, saw my son, but I
Okay.
didn't get to see her. For whatever reason. So I didn't get to see her, but I did take her the food and she did get it. And she was like, and I said, did you get your food? She was like, yeah, and the hot chocolate and marshmallows. I was like, oh, that was important to you, huh? There's a little extra something, something thrown in there.
Uh,
And so yeah, so when I did speak to her, she was lying down and she said she was waiting for her mom to come back so that she could take her walk.
okay.
So her color is back. It just, yeah, her color is back. Those tubes haven't left yet, but that are coming from her lungs because they can't keep that fluid out of there. Um, so I guess the more she walks, the more the fluid will leave the space. So, but she
Mm-hmm.
sounds good, and she made a birthday card for her brother yesterday. By the time I seen her, so she was up and at it pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's
Ah,
definitely on the mend.
good, good, good. And so we'll see all that fluid just making its way on out, and yeah, and everything just as it is supposed to be. Oh, anyway, that is interesting. Good morning. Good morning. It's her granddaughter, but Everett said he's praying for Sevyn.
Thank
Um,
you.
yay, yay, yay. Yes, good morning, good morning. And so I had an interesting morning. Girl, sometimes I have on a blonde wig, right? I mean,
It may
and
just be in your DNA
I,
somewhere.
I hate confessing to that. But this morning, so I get up. Hey, look, Hardy, LA Hardy, La Hardy.
Oh,
Good morning. Good morning. That's a new name popping up on there, which is beautiful. So I must have had on my blonde wig this morning because I went, to let my dog out at 5 a.m. It was like
mhm.
five. It was about 5 a.m. I let the dog out because I was going down to work out. And when I opened the door to let the dog out, I've had to keep the gate open since all the snow.
Snow. Hmm.
So when I opened the doggone gate, when I opened the door, I smelled and I was like, oh, smell like somebody getting high out here. So, girl, I stick my head out and I look over in my neighbor's yard and I'm looking all around and I'm trying to figure out, well, who could be out here getting high? I'm just like, okay, whatever. I close the door and I go to yeah, Stephanie. Like I said, I had on my blonde wig. Didn't I say? So what I usually do is go down in the basement and cut on the lights and get the little music going and everything, and I come back up and let the dog back in. But this time, since it smelled like somebody was getting high, I decided to walk up to the front of the house and see if there was a car sitting out on the street. And I was like, okay, so I didn't see a car, but I saw my dog run into the street. So I go back to the door, I throw on a jacket, and I throw on this jacket and I run outside. Girl, why did I have to stop as a skunk walked right across my path? I'm thinking, what are you? What are you doing out here? I was like, oh my God, I got into a panic, like, oh my God. But fortunately, I smelled the smell when I let her out, which meant the skunk had already sprayed somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so now I go out there looking for my dog, and there was some cats across the street that she was over there. I was like, oh my God. So
So she
fortunately,
didn't get it though. She didn't get sprayed.
no, no,
Wow.
but I might have the way as close as I was to that skunk, and it seemed like it was in such a hurry it didn't even see me coming down the driveway,
Oh,
and I
okay.
just stopped like, oh my God. I'm not gonna sit there and clap or something else like that.
Respect. Respect.
Yes, yes.
Good.
So thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it. Yes. He said we look great. You
Oh,
guys
thank
look
you.
great.
Thank you.
Calling all the way from sunny Florida.
Oh,
Okay, so
fun. Yes. Florida,
yeah.
I'm feeling you right now.
What we could do for some of that sunshine and
Well,
warmth and
it's rainy
everything.
too. Down there right now too.
Is
Well, in
what?
Alabama, rainy.
Oh, I took a half of a Zyrtec last night. Remember, I was telling you all that congestion and
Mhm.
everything. I took a half, so I haven't been sneezing quite as much as usual. He said it's only 60 there. Whatever.
Oh, darn.
Okay. And it is only 34 here, which means that our snow can continue to melt.
Yes.
So,
60 degrees.
I just would do for some sunshine. You
Yeah,
know,
that's what I want, son.
well, yeah, I want some sunshine and some warmth. I need sunlight on my entire body. It just seems like I am so accustomed. I had grown so accustomed to always taking a vacation around the first of the year during all this darkness that, yeah, it seems bizarre that I don't have access to that right now. And he says, come on down. Look,
Headed to Florida Tuesday.
look, you are Tuesday.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would be so wonderfully nice. Now, I will say to y'all that I have had my challenges going places when somebody tell me to come on down. I go places and then all of a sudden you go down there and you like, ooh, I'm having a hard time staying where I'm at because you I have had some challenges because I will tell you, I pick up and go places. I have gone, somebody say, oh, come on.
Yeah. So what's the challenge? Especially if you got a vehicle.
No, Stephanie, you need me to tell you about that offline.
Yes. I'm about to pick up and go
No,
someplace.
listen, no, because I am bold, I am free, and I am truthful. I have had plenty of invitations, and sometimes I do actually go and have ended up going and staying with guys that it's like, ooh, this is not quite what I expected. And no, we ain't going there. Or I've had my challenges because
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
I
not.
yeah, I
Oh,
will
yeah.
tell you, I have like gotten plane tickets from and gone places.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't, yeah, I'm too cautious for that part. Like,
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
too cautious.
yeah. So no, I don't worry about it. I was like, well, I mean, I'll go places, but I'm gonna know something about the somebody, or be prepared with some bond money or something.
Oh, and wait a minute. My sister has a friend who did that exact same thing. She went someplace with some man and I don't know, they were having problems. And she said that when he got in the shower, she went in there and got his keys and drove herself back to Cleveland in his car She was like, oh, he shouldn't have acted a fool on me. But no, I haven't had it. I haven't had it that bad, but I have like gotten someplace and yeah, and found out it wasn't. I'm not gonna lie, I have done that. And found out it wasn't what I had at all planned. I am I
Um,
am I am the adventurous girl. But I did meet this guy named Greg who was in Texas. And we traveled a bit together. We went to Florida and Texas and um, a couple of places. But that was way back in the day.
yeah. I
Back in
got a little, fortunately though, because I'm, it's this little sister, big brother type vibe. So it's all good. We just go to places, football games and Vegas, and we just like hanging out.
yeah.
But no, yeah, anyway, it's for me to get away. It's my self-care week, my love week. It was Valentine's vacay invitation. I said yes because I want to love on me, self-care, and
Well,
let's
beautiful girl, go. You look, I am not one to say anything because I will tell you, I have flown places in the blind, in the total blind. And yeah, and let's see what happens. And I get there and I make the determination that, ooh, this ain't working for me. And then I started saying, okay, I got enough to go stay in a hotel tonight, but
absolutely, yeah.
I gotta figure out in a couple of days, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. Um, yeah, yeah. And have crashed on cousins, be like, hey, I got here and this ain't what I thought. I'm gonna drive your way.
No, I'm pretty excited, and it's yeah, I'm pretty excited as it's gonna be. It's gonna be an amazing, amazing time. We always have so much fun together, and yeah, so I'm excited, and I'm excited because the person is gonna be working most of the time, so that makes me feel really good because I get to just have that I just get to have my space to myself and the water to myself and go to the golf and eat seafood from the water, just I'm just looking forward to hanging out with me for
Beautiful.
the times that I get to hang out with me. I love exploration. I love exploration with, people, but I also have come to respect the fact that I love exploration alone, especially water. And when I get by water, if a person is not like spiritually in tune to water, I tend to not want to be in there with them. Um, but I will go to water by myself because water is a very spiritual experience for me. So I like going to water and I prefer to go with someone who is, sees the water like I see it, or I'd rather go alone because I don't want to be talking and there's a time for that. But it's just a spiritual, everything is so spiritual for me. It's just a spiritual experience for me to just go and be by that water and hang out and
Yeah.
and then come back to my brand new you.
Yeah, I have actually walked I did a nude midnight run on the beach in Virginia Beach. I got to walk nude out in the moonlight. It was beautiful and wonderful. And it was helpful because my cousins actually they stay in Tallahassee, Florida now. When they were in the military, there's some private beaches there that are owned by the military. And we got a chance to stay in a private area that was just, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I really do miss that because a lot of times you can go places and the beaches are so crowded.
Mm-hmm.
And this I forget what the name of the area was, but Yeah, we went down there and that was like a thing for a few years.
Mm.
Just beautiful. So anyway, to tell you the adventures of Sandra, because I have swam nude in a number of these wonderful beaches. Um, which is in itself an amazing and beautiful thing. I did it the first time when I was over in the south of France, and just all that and a bag of chips. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning, Ruth.
Yeah, I was just looking at my thing. My sentiments exactly, Stephanie. Water is my thing. Okay.
Who's that? Erica?
Nope, that is Ruth as well.
Oh, hi, Ruth. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I am a Pisces, and so yeah, water has been. As a matter of fact, I had a, a premonition because I did almost drown in when I was in the south of France. As heavy as the water is, like it's easy to float on top of the water there because it's so salty. Um, but at one point I did go under and I was intoxicated. I was with a group of folks and that was staying in a student hostel, and it was just adventures. And we were down there, we were playing a drinking game, and you pass the thing, and got in the water. I actually took pictures in the water naked. And yeah, so I thought I was going to death by drowning.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, I am one with water, and water is one with me. So look, listen, I want to get through. So for you guys who don't know this, Stephanie will not be with me next week. She is on her way out of town, which is what we were just talking about. She is on her way out of town. And so she will not be with me on next week. And so we're going to finish up this chapter, although we are going to kind of keep pushing, but I'm the slow one here. Here it is that we have been doing this book since the beginning of the year. We started this book on January 3rd of this year, and we are only on page 39. So I confess I am the slow one, but one of the things that I do is we can all just read a book. We can read. If it was just about reading the book, you might as well just, go to Libby and download the book and read it like that. Even if you've already read the book, what my endeavor is always to breathe life into this. So let's talk about real world examples that are our own, and then talk about the implications behind some of the examples that we get. So it takes us a bit longer to talk about how this impacts our community, ourselves, all of this stuff. And so call me sidetracked saying if you want to. It is, I think that when we can look at this in the context of our own lives, that it is helpful for us to get a better understanding of what it's saying. So because we could go real deep in this. I could talk about, bring this into the family history and talk about all the different stuff, but we're really still just skimming over the surface, and it's taking us a minute. So so Stephanie may be gone for a whole week, and I may only get
Say it ain't so.
a couple of pages done.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, let's move along.
Treading water. So we are still only on page 39, but this has been such a rich discussion. You guys, when you miss a day out of this discussion, you miss some major stuff. It could be that, and sometimes I'm talking about rape and sexual assault. Sometimes I'm talking about my attachment to my own body. Sometimes we're talking about relationships. Sometimes we're talking about memory. Sometimes we're talking about the science. We talk about some of everything on here. So, and if you haven't gotten this book, It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin is the shizzle.
Yes. And it's easy to read, I think, but
It is. It
I
is.
it's easy to read.
And even with all the scientific deep dive stuff into the research that goes behind it, is easy to read. And then it makes you want to go off on this and go off on that and understand it from this perspective. I know that that's the way I read a book. It's like if this man starts talking about something in particular, like when he brought up Bruce Lipton, I was like, own it. And I read Bruce Lipton. And when he, there's a few other people in here that I've got on my list to read, but of course their stuff wasn't immediately available. But if something resonates with you, it's up to us to just kind of drill down on that and see what it is there for us. So we pick up here on 39, and it says, given that a generation of humans is approximately 20 years. So what does that mean? Like we talked about that a generation for a rat or a mice is like 12 weeks. Right. So from the time they're born, then at 12 weeks, they can start having babies again. And then that's a new generation. Ours takes 20 years, which makes researching it a little bit harder, because even the researchers are old by the time the next generation is born. So,
right.
So it makes it kind of hard. So the results from a human study span multiple generations is still something that's pending. So if you were really trying to get 3 generations, that's like 60 years if that's the way it's going. Mm-hmm. That's a long time. And so they really do use these mice. So, however, the research demonstrating that stress can be transmitted through at least 3 generations in mice, the researchers surmise that children born to a human parents can experience a traumatic or stressful event. They would likely pass the patterns down not only to their children, but to their grandchildren as well. So the stress, not that your mother had, but that your grandmother had, and possibly your great-grandmother. We don't know how long this stuff lives in us, but the same trauma is passed down depending, and it could be that your great-great-grandmother, your great-great-great-grandmother had stress that was passed down 3 generations, and then here comes new stress. Because in our community, the stress didn't necessarily let up just because slavery was over. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
And so when we talk about how this stress and this stuff is impacting us or hitting us, we don't know. We don't know if we've passed that, or if we only just keep landing in this.
Well, we'll know now, for those who listen, that they will get a clearer understanding that the possibility is there. Like just knowing that possibility is a reality, I think gives permission for people to think different. Let me look at this in a different way. Maybe this is not my stress. Maybe this is somebody else's. Maybe this is not my stuff. Maybe this is someone else's. Mm-hmm. When you raise a child and you think that you're doing it very different from where you come from, and yet this child still has certain outcomes or behaviors that mimic a stressed or anxious little person, mm-hmm. Then you're like, what the heck am I doing wrong? First thing a parent would say, right? But the reality is that there are generational stressors that are there. And then you couple that with parenting styles, then here comes the, it kind of like a virus that lays dormant in the body. The right environment will now bring it to the surface. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that when we have those DNAs from our, from our heritage, from our ancestors, I think I mentioned that my grandfather could not read nor write when he came up here to the north. So that where in my field of study is automatic anxiety. Could have had depression too, but I don't know if I witnessed that until after my grandmother passed away. But anxiety is like, to me, that would be a given, right? You coming up here, you can't read or write, you're looking for work, anxious, anxious, anxious. And he's a Black man that has born and raised in Twiggs County, Macon, Georgia. Like, he has his own set of trauma that comes with that, and his own family history coming with that. So then he gets with my grandmother, who has her own level of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have my mom. And so anxiety, I used to say I was anxious in my mother's womb because of her circumstance. Now that I understand about my grandparents.
Yeah, and it could be too, that could contribute to this constant hunger that you have for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that has been something that you honestly have in your DNA,
Oh,
because
it is.
what
My
what
grandmother should have been a doctor.
yeah, what somebody
Yeah.
else does not have or did not get, that longing for that does not dissipate. It's like, give
Oh
me,
yeah.
give
Yeah.
me, right?
My grandmother read books, all kind of medical books, medical journals, and so does her daughter. All kind of medical books and medical journals. My grandmother wanted to be I guess back in the day they called it a shake dancer, right? And yet I'm a dancer. Didn't know that about my grandmother until this year. Yet I'm a
Okay.
dancer, and my sister is a nurse, and a lot of my cousins are nurses because my grandmother, probably given the right environment, would have been a nurse or a doctor, because and my mother too, they both pick up on that stuff so well. And I grew up with books and libraries in my house. And,
Mhm.
that's usually for the college educated community or family of, origin, but that was our experience. So
Mhm.
they always had a thirst for knowledge as well,
Mhm.
mother and my
Yeah.
grandma. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me too. And I guess let me say this, but because it is amazing to me that everybody does not have that, and I didn't really realize that until I started going. How you go to people's homes and you want to give them some information, and they can not only not find a pen or paper, they just they don't have stuff like that. Like, they don't have books in some of these homes, and we grew up with that green and cream Encyclopedia Britannica
Right.
and,
Yes.
all of those other books. I have a uncle who wrote a book, and so there's so many things that a lot of times we take for granted that is just common for other people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then what place does how does that stuff incorporate itself in your life? I know when I look around people's houses, do people have libraries? Do they have bookshelves? Do they have books? It's not necessarily all that common, although we might think it is. So yes, Everett, experiences that and stress from your ancestors is still a part of you,
Yeah, it's
right?
motivating me, I believe, today. I
Yeah,
understand that today.
yeah, and you going down to Mobile, Alabama, girl. I've been taking a class that has been going on, and it's all about genealogy and tracing our genealogy. And sometimes people go to places like Alabama just to look through some of the materials that they have down there, trying to find
Oh,
information
yeah, why
on
not?
their
Mhm.
families of origin. And so just being able to go down there, and the one woman who was giving the class, she was looking for her grandfather and could not find a death certificate for him because she thought that he was living in I think it was Alabama. She thought he was in Alabama. And so she kept looking for it, couldn't find this death certificate for him. But then when she went down there, she found his grave site. So she
Hmm.
said she ended up combing the country, like, and I think she was talking about how to search around people instead of just for them. And she found out that he was in Pennsylvania when he died, and then they shipped his body back, so she had to go to Pennsylvania, find his death certificate there. Then she went through the census and the taxes and all of that stuff in Pennsylvania, trying to figure out how long he was there. Because she said that everybody has a paper trail, even if you are
Mm.
in somebody else's property records.
Please
Um,
find my great grandfather because I cannot.
so yeah,
Thank
she
you for
is.
saying that.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that she said, is that you have to, when you start doing the searches, she said search around. Don't just search linearly, just, start looking at all the people around and see who you can find and who was connected. It's been fascinating.
It is. It is.
And that's the kind of stuff, like, we could sit here and talk about, the genealogy piece of this. But if we are just really just kind of talking about it from our level and our perspective, we can look at some of the things that are happening, some of the propensities that we have in our own life, like me and dating, as I talked about me and dating, and then looking back at my grandparents and the situations that they found themselves in. So if we're looking, and we're trying to explain today, because we don't, even our relationship with money, right? There have been so many people who have been brought up with the idea that money is the root of all evil, right? And then it's like, how do I root that out? How do I negate that and say, oh, that's not my experience, or I don't want to think that way, when it's some programming that we have received? So could that have been back from sharecropping, when your grandparents were trying to reestablish or trying to establish themselves for the very first time, being cheated, saying, hey, this don't look right. And then, somebody saying, boy, you
Or
don't
the
know.
message that people with money are evil.
Yeah,
Who wouldn't come with that simple math?
right, right,
I mean, who wouldn't
right,
come up with that deduction?
right.
Yeah.
So these things are things that are planted into our subconscious. I will tell you that
It
as
has
a
to be rooted
child,
out.
yeah, as a child, I can remember, we used to have big, huge imaginations, and we played together because there was 5 of us, and then 6 when Valiant came along. We always had extra folks in our house because my mother babysat, right? But we always played together. We had these imaginations. The carpet is water, and the floors are dry land. And we were busy playing. But then after a while, the Little Rascals came on, or the Flintstones came on, or there was things that started where I can remember, but we didn't get to watch a lot of television. But then sometimes I can remember us watching TV and sitting down, being mesmerized by, oh, look at this, the Little Rascals. Boy, that sure is, you sure are putting a lot of jam on that sandwich there, right? we can remember those things. And it was interesting because now as a grown adult, I can look at and see some of the messages that are embedded in the things that we watched, right? And how they programmed us for the lives that we have today.
Yes, ma'am.
So whether we're talking about the Flintstones or the Little Rascals or Popeye, I will gladly pay you Tuesday. Look, give me some credit. I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, right? And so as little kids, we don't realize that we're, the messages around capitalism, around the haves and the have-nots. We
Right.
don't recognize that, is it possible that people in the Stone Age and the Flintstones had individual stone houses, and that, and that whole idea of the keep your hubby happy, I mean, there was so many messages that we got that we never questioned because it wasn't for us to question. But now that we're older, it's like, ooh, what's this saying? Why are all the bad guys Mexican speaking, right? We don't think about that.
Wow.
But it was so many. The little mouse, I think the little mouse had a Mexican accent too, right?
Oh, with Tom and Jerry. Is that what you're talking about?
Jerry.
What little mouse?
I can't even think of what the little mouse is, what that was on, but
I didn't get to watch a lot of television, so there's some shows that I'm just, people are like, you didn't see that? No, I don't know what my mother knew. I thank God, whatever she knew, I'm grateful for.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, I don't know.
Maybe we couldn't afford a television.
Okay.
Maybe that was my narrative, because we didn't get a microwave. I was in 12th grade, and so yeah, and color TV was not a thing for a while. I don't know why we didn't watch a lot of television. My little brother watched way more TV than I could have ever imagined watching. So I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know what other people's narratives were, and it didn't seem like we watched TV all day like we see kids doing now.
Yeah, that would never be.
But yeah, I don't know what the reasons behind that were, but I know that now when people watch TV, we're bombarded with images that'll say to us, if he loves you, he'll go to Jared, or if you're special enough, you'll get this car or that car, or how your neighbors see you based on what kind of car you drive. All of that stuff.
Translation: you're not good enough. That's what the messages are.
Yes.
Reach the pinnacle of our expectations.
So yeah, all of that stuff, it goes in there. But now here it says that he says, uncannily, the Bible in Numbers 14:18 appears to corroborate the claims of modern science, or vice versa, that the sins, iniquities, or consequences, depending upon the translation that you read, of your parents can affect the children up to the third and fourth generation. Now, they knew this before science, right? They wasn't sitting up looking at a petri dish and looking at your cells and seeing what your cells were doing. They wrote about this in biblical days, saying that the sins of the father are visited upon the child for up to 4 generations. And so
that they used to put people out of kingdoms for 3 to 4 generations. So like if someone has status in the kingdom, and then they have, they betrayed the country, or they betrayed the kingdom, then they were taken out of the kingdom. They couldn't come into the temple. They couldn't come into the city gates. They were forbade into that downtown area where the temples were built and where people gathered. They were there, and they would be cast out of the country or cast out of that city state for generations, not like 60 days and 90 days. It would be like you are banished for 3 generations. And then that last generation comes and sits before the king requesting with gratitude and, asking forgiveness so that the family now can be brought back into the city gates.
And so technically this is not even the person who committed the whatever
yes.
was.
Yes.
This is now the descendants of.
Yes.
That's that is interesting as well, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a thing.
And even when you think about how long Moses wandered in the wilderness, right? Because that was
generation had to die.
Yeah, because sometimes it's the small-minded thinking or whatever it is that needs to pass.
Yes.
And so and when you think about it from that perspective, now let me say this, because somebody might take this as if, especially if you've got judgments against your own parents, right? That you cannot offset this, right? You don't have to be what your parents were. If you've got issues with that, and so part of the reason why this book is entitled "It Didn't Start With You," how inherited family trauma shapes who you are, and then how to end the cycle. That is the last sentence on there, how to end the cycle. Because it is possible that you can end the cycle. You don't have to do those things. And so but part of it too is to recognize that you are in a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is part of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
To recognize what's going on in our lives and then set about to do something about it. Mm-hmm. Make some new choices, whatever that may mean. So
and also in my practice, I see people all the time just needing a safe place to tell their truth about how they feel about their parents, because we have a lot of beliefs that something is not okay for me if I am angry or if I hate or if I'm judging. And so people keep that experience pushed down and shoved down, and they don't give a space for it to examine it and to own their own feelings. And most people don't know what they feel. So, and that's because if I actually started to feel what I felt, people are afraid that our hearts, because our hearts do break. When we actually own some of our experiences, it's a heartbreak and we avoid that pain. And so know that if there is this feeling of resistance to look at the impact that our families of origin have had on us, it's normal to have the resistance, but it is important to sit in it, or go somewhere, come to me, go somewhere where you can unpack it, and nobody ever has to know how you felt about it and what you said about it and how you whatever, and just get clear and clean and leave it. And there are processes that you can do to just do it, say what you need to say, own it. It's just there's a power in telling yourself the truth about what you think about your mama and your daddy. For real.
and yeah, and it has tentacles, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what you think, part of it is that people were doing the best that they could.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing
Intellectually, everybody, I
yeah.
believe everyone understands that.
So well, I don't know if we understand it so much as, yeah, I don't know that we understand it, especially not when we're sitting in a place of anger. You know what I mean? So so and when we're standing in a place of anger or blame, we don't know that they're doing the best that they can. I think that for me to back up and realize that my parents were living in a different space and time, and that the information that they were operating off of wasn't the same information that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
It's that in itself was one of those things that was liberating. Like, oh, let me consider that for them at the time, they thought that beatings were okay. They didn't understand the impact of, go get a switch and beating my butt. They didn't understand that because that was what they had always learned. And they thought that they were doing good. Spare the rod, spoil the child. That was what they heard. And
Okay.
so for them, they thought they were doing the best that they could.
Okay.
Now in hindsight, now I can look at that and I can see, they weren't even, this was what they learned. This was what they saw. It was what they knew. And they thought that they were doing good by us. So I don't know. I guess in that, I don't know that I knew that they were doing what they thought was right for me. I was just knowing that I didn't like it.
Right.
I didn't hate them, but I certainly didn't like it. So at a certain point, we gotta be in a space where, or hopefully we get to a space where we're able to let our parents off the hook.
And you think it's like just like that?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying
Okay.
that that we actually have to consider
Mm-hmm.
that their life and their life experience and the information that they had is very different from the information that we have right now.
It's true.
Yeah, and so just because they learned that, just because that was what they saw, that was what they experienced, doesn't mean that that it was right or that it was good or wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's it takes us time to really figure out even the judgments that we have against them. Why? Even the judgments that we have against them. I so um my mother has taught me a whole bunch of stuff that I would have just I get it because I can see from her thing. I didn't realize that what she thought, look, what she thought was for good was something that worked against me. And I had to understand it from the perspective that she was coming from. And that takes me sitting down in that and not looking away. That took that warmth of,
That was my point, is that understanding that there is a work that has to be done, and to give yourself permission to do that work, to look at it from a different place, that it's painful. um I deal with this all the time, and that's one of the hardest parts. And then you got two people in a room instead of just one sometimes. The hardest part is that exonerating piece. That's why I'm on it all the time, because I watch people struggle. It's almost like funeral services, the weeping and the letting go and the desiring to know that all these experiences and informations and words that were said, that it shaped a person's idea of themselves. It is a major piece to the change. It's the opening of the cracking the shell. And so being in the initial break is what I call it. It's a very challenging, my experience has been that it's been um, a very challenging part of recovery or healing. A lot of my clients are Caucasian. So, but then when I work with our people, a lot of times they'll get to this place, and this is where they stop coming to services, because it's hard, because we have some beliefs in our community that that you're not supposed to go there or touch that. That's my mama. That's, don't we hold some things sacred about how we're supposed to think or feel about our parents.
mm. Well, and we are told, honor your mother and your father, right? I mean, that's shucks. Is that like the first commandment? No, the second.
Children are
Love the
someone.
Lord God with all your heart and all your soul. And then honor your mother and your father, that your days may be long or whatever. I don't know, but it's up there in the top.
Yeah, I have a 30-something-year-old client, Italian family, who, dad is on this rampage right now, that you are not to reprimand your parents. That means that you are not, if you share with your parents anything that you imagine that you've experienced that was wrong, you're reprimanding them, or you're being disrespectful. And so now this person is having to work through the reality that, in all of my understanding, I can't even go to my parents and get the understanding that I have this understanding now. Where do you sit in it today? Instead of them saying, I didn't even realize how much I impacted you, it's, you don't reprimand your parents. He on his way out of here. He's in his 80s, and that position of, because I'm sharing with you how your experience has impacted me, I am reprimanding you. And it's just a deep, and children, us, we live with a sense of loyalty to our parents, which
Mhm.
makes absolute sense, right? And
Right.
so, yeah.
But and sometimes though, I would probably question, like, what's there to be gained by confronting our parents about stuff? Because the work that we need to do is not about trying to make them admit, because they did the best that they
No,
could.
it's not about admitting this person wanted to inform. And they don't need anything from their parent, the work, but they wanted to inform. And it's something healthy about informing. That's what healthy families do. If a family is healthy enough to do that, that is what healthy looks like. I'm able to share my truth. A lot of times when kids can't exonerate their parents, they live in a household where they're not allowed to have a truth of their own. They only have to have the family's truth. They don't have a who am I. It doesn't exist. And so when I stand in my who am I, this is one client, but when you stand in my who am I, then that is considered reprimanding a parent, when I'm just informing you of the impact. And this is why I'm making these changes.
Mm. I don't know. I guess from I guess I would wonder about that. I remember something happened when somebody died, and the one of their parents was sitting there and saying, well, I was right there holding their hand when they died. And it's like, no, you wasn't. No, you weren't. You wasn't even there. They called you and told you that it happened, and then you showed up, right? And then somebody asked the question, what difference does it make if it gives them, that person, some comfort in thinking that they were there? What difference does it make? Right? Why do we try to correct people when?
Yeah, I don't think that my client, well, I know my client wasn't, not, the intention was not for correction. So if you understood that way, that was not the intention of talking to their parents, was not for correction. It was
Okay.
for informing them that this behavior is a new behavior, and this is why this behavior has to change for me.
Mm. Okay. Well, yeah. So and I think we've talked about that before, because I was telling in the stories that I talk about my dad, I was always of the awareness that I was never going to be able to change my father.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be able to change him, and I did not try, but I could change me.
Exactly.
And so that didn't mean that I needed to tell him, Dad, you don't need to say this to me anymore. Or Dad, you don't. I changed how I heard him,
Mm-hmm.
which made the difference in my relationship with him. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't put the responsibility on him to change. So
That's not healthy, to put the responsibility on someone else to change. That's toxic.
right. So that's why I'm saying I didn't do that. I was able to change me. I wasn't going trying to make my dad be different.
Right.
And yeah, so when I think about, yeah, that, I mean, and that's, I think I told that story a while back ago, because I just wanted to have a relationship with my father. So I didn't need to change him. I just needed to hear him differently. So and that, I think, is a challenge for all of us to re-examine even what we thought the motivation behind their actions were, to re-examine that. And sometimes we do have to give ourselves a new narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not going to change them, I wasn't going to change him. And I know that I can't change anybody else. So I guess I need to figure out in the midst of that whether or not I need to change my relationship, or if I need to change how I define it, how I hear things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, for everybody, just trying to figure out what's the intent, what's the outcome that I want. I wanted a relationship with my father.
Mm-hmm.
If I needed to be stuck in my rightness about
Mm-hmm.
his actions, that would not have happened.
Yeah.
Right. It just wouldn't have happened. So I did an adjustment in my own hearing. Every time I hear him say, Sandy, why? Or Sandy this, or Sandy that, I heard him saying, Sandy, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I could respond differently. I didn't have to get all, feeling my stomach and getting all, it was like, oh, my dad, he loved me. I just didn't like the way he showed it, but he did love me. Every step of the way, every step of the way. Even when I was getting my butt beat, he did it because he thought that was what was good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just really interesting how even just sitting with, what he came out of and where he was, You know, sometimes we say, oh, I ain't gonna never be like my parents. That's what people say all the time, right? I ain't gonna never do that.
Well, we become what we judge. Now, whatever, take that to the bank. That it's the truth. We
Mhm.
become that which we judge. That's why judging, well, we become that which we judge. So be mindful when we say that I'm never going to do that, because you'll look up and it's the thing that you're doing. Maybe not forever, but
All right, so let me finish this right quick, and then because it's I didn't realize how late it was. It says the New Living Translation says, the Lord is slow to anger and filled with unfailing love. Forgive every kind of sin and rebellion, forgiving every kind of sin and rebellion, but he does not excuse the guilty. He lays the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations. That's what the New Translation says, which is heavy, right? It is so heavy when we think about even this term of karma. That is a heavy thing to lay at a person's feet. So he switches then, Mark Wolin does, he switches in and he says, as new discoveries in epigenetics are revealed, new information about how to mitigate the transgenerational effects of trauma could become standard practice. Researchers are now finding that our thoughts, inner images, and daily practices such as visualization, meditation can change the way our genes express. An idea we will examine in more detail in the next chapter. So, this idea about living consciously, right, is huge. If we're just working from our subconscious programming, yeah, we get caught up in those same things, but we need to begin to figure out how to live in a space where we're doing the work that is required for us to change the circumstances.
yep.
So I think we're saying the same thing, Stephanie.
I don't know, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing with the caveat. I think that what I was saying was is I don't think that we have the idea that I think that when people are sitting in their judgment about people and their family, they don't always have the idea that people are doing the best that they can. I think that we sit in our space of judgment even when it's happening. Like if my mama loved me, she would not have slapped me.
Or the people are trying to reconcile, if my grandfather loved me, why would he rape me? And that is not an easy seat to sit in. And I've watched people struggle with coming to that reconciliation and having a safe place to say, I hate, I done, whatever you got to do to let your heart break, and then become in a space of exoneration or whatever needs to happen. But I've watched the struggle, even for domestic violence, when women come to shelter settings and they are in love with this person, and they can have mirrors all around looking at their faces disfigured and cast on their arms. The reconciliation of saying that someone has done the best that they know how, but yet they're hurting me, is a very, it's a very the 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 training, the reprogramming the brain is a lot of work. And that was my only intention, was to say that it's not an easy task. Get somewhere where you can do the work, and let your heart break, and somebody to help you let your heart break and zip you back up, bring it back out, give you processes, because it is not easy once you come to understand what has happened. Same with people with the PTSD. When you know that you have PTSD, it's not, oh, I got PTSD. That's the most terrifying place to live, because there are spaces in your life where you don't have control, and you got to practice learning how to put things into arrest. And so if my mom is still alive and she's the person that abused me and we're still in a connection, it's just a lot of it takes a lot of work. And I just wanted to say that for anyone that's listening, that the healing process to get to a place of exoneration, you need a safe place to tell the truth.
Mhm.
And
I'm sorry, did it seem like I was making light of it?
no, just countering it.
Okay, I'm not, I don't perceive myself as countering it. I'm sorry if that's the way you took it. I'm not, I don't perceive that that is what I'm saying at all. I think that what I'm saying is that a lot of times we have a tendency to, even when our parents are doing wrong, especially when we're kids, to think that they're doing the best that they can for us. Because what I notice about people is we put our parents up on pedestals sometimes that they don't deserve. And so we don't always have that recognition until later on. And so, yeah, however the work is to be done, and however we perceive it at the time we perceive it, it's still our work to do. And no, it's not easy. And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to make light of it. That's not at
No,
all
you
what I'm
don't
trying
feel
to
like
do.
it was light. It
Yeah.
just comes across as if, that somebody's trying to change their parent or what have you. And so I could have explained my expression of desiring people to know that the work is not easy and it does hurt. So if you've tried it and you've made a mess of it and just said, forget this, it is what it is, keep doing the work, because your heart does have to break in order for you to be okay. And that was my only what I felt impressed to say during that time of the sins of the father and having to repeat it and having to heal. That was my only intention.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't, I didn't want to come across as if I was trying to counter what you were saying. I think, yeah, I think that I think that that's the beauty in what we do, right? We both come at different things from different perspectives. And
Mhm.
yeah, and just being able to honor what you see, and you understanding where the space that I'm coming from.
Mhm.
Because and our stuff is different, you may be dealing with and but at the same time it's not, right? It's
Mhm.
different, but it's not. And we see people in our own communities that come from families that have incest, because women just were not, this stuff was not thought of the same.
Mhm.
It wasn't perceived the same back then. And so did grandpa understand that he was doing something hurtful and wrong?
Yes,
Or
because it
did
was
he just
sneaky.
perceive that women were to be mounted and to take advantage of,
Oh, okay.
and not realizing that there was some kind of emotional damage that they were doing later on? You know,
That's possible.
there was a show that I watched where the mother and father was in on the abuse, where the mother was saying, well,
Oh yeah, it happens a lot.
yeah, what you got to go do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So sneaking or not sneaking, some people just don't perceive it as I'm damaging my child. They, so I don't mean to shrug it off. I'm just, And as you would say, the work is still yours to do.
It is.
Is yours to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hot potato. You got it. You got it. If it falls in your lap, you got it. What am I
It
supposed to
is.
do with this?
Yep.
Well, Stephanie, have a
I
wonderful,
intend to. Very
wonderful week.
intentional.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank
And yes, and we'll see you back here on the 21st when we will have the gang all together. So thank you so
All
much.
right. Have an amazing
Happy
week. I will be
Valentine's
listening.
Day to
Happy
you.
Valentine's Day. Happy
Yeah,
Valentine's Day. Exciting and weekend. So I hope everybody has a great time.
yes, yes, yes.
All
All right.
righty.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, y'all. So we are out of here. Again, the book is It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. And I will be starting in on the next chapter, The Family Mind, next week. Stephanie will be gone for the entire week. And so, you get me. And who knows, I might have some special guests that'll sit in with me next week. Could be you, could be not, I don't know. But nonetheless, we will carry on, push on, and yeah, all of that good stuff. What else do I need to say? Maybe that's it. Valentine's Day is next week, y'all, on Monday, actually. So I'll be here with bells and whistles on, but I'll be here tomorrow too. So yeah, I'll be here tomorrow too. So thank you for so much for watching. I bless you. I thank you. I hope you have a fabulous Friday. Y'all, this stuff is, I mean, there's a lot here that we are unpacking. And yeah, and I don't mean to make light of anybody's trauma. And I don't know that, I don't know that that's what I'm doing. And so as we move through this space together, there's going to be some times when this is going to be rough and it's going to be a little tense, and on purpose, because we need to start talking about this stuff as a community, because some people, did have the perception that it was okay and it was right. And so how do we work through that? What is it that we need to do in order to make sure that the healing happens? That's where we are. All right. So blessings to you. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place, and have an amazing, amazing weekend. All right. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye. And I am out.